奉主耶穌聖名證讀。
In the name of Jesus, I sermonize.
我成日大家平安。
Peace to you all on the Sabbath day.
今日同大家嚟勉勵嘅題目係財主與拉撒路。
And the title I would like to share for mutual encouragement is The Rich Man and Lazarus.
主耶穌喺佢傳道嘅生涯中，常常用呢個比喻。
And when Jesus was on earth preaching, he used a lot of parables.
按照呢個福音書嘅記載，主耶穌用嘅比喻超過60個咁多。
And in the Gospel books, it records over 60 parables.
佢用比喻嚟嘅教訓啲門徒以及嗰啲聽眾。
And he used parables to teach his disciples and the congregation.
喺呢個馬太福音第13章第3節嗰度，亦都提到主耶穌佢就開始嚟用呢個比喻。
And in Matthew chapter 13 verse 3, it records of when Jesus first used parables.
講到一個撒種嘅人。
It talks about a sower.
佢撒種有啲係撒喺呢個路旁嗰度。
And a sower sowed some seeds by the wayside.
當然呢個飛鳥嚟就將呢種子就食咗。
And of course the birds came and devoured them.
有啲撒喺呢個淺土嘅地方。
And some fell on stony ground.
日頭一出，因為冇根，所以就枯乾就死啦。
And so when the sun came up, because it had no root, it withered.
有啲撒喺呢個荊棘裏邊頭。
And some seeds fell by the thorns.
因為呢個荊棘擠住啦，唔能夠生長。
And because the thorns choked them, they couldn't grow.
咁有啲撒喺呢個好嘅地土裏。
And some fell on good ground.
咁好嘅地土當然係收成非常之好，有100倍、60倍同埋一個30倍。
And because it was good ground, it yielded a crop, some 100, some 60, some 30.
主耶穌佢講呢啲比喻係讓嗰啲聽眾佢好容易明白嘅。
And Jesus used parables to allow the multitude to understand.
而且咧留下非常之深刻嘅印象，佢唔會忘記。
And to leave a lasting impression so they wouldn't forget.
尤其是當時跟從主耶穌嘅門徒以及嗰啲百姓。
Especially the disciples and the multitude that followed Jesus.
佢哋嘅學識係非常之比較低微，所以咧聽咗將呢啲比喻聽咗佢好容易明白。
They had a lower level of education, so these parables were easily understandable.
佢容易明白主耶穌所講嘅道理。
They could easily understand the teachings of Jesus.
主耶穌用呢個比喻嘅方式，都係用喺百姓日常生活所睇見嘅東西或者做嘅事物嚟去作一個比喻。
And Jesus used examples from their daily life, or the things that they did, as parables.
讓人能夠了解呢個真理係佢嘅意思係乜嘢。
So people could understand the truth.
而今日所講嘅財主與拉撒路呢個比喻。
And today's parable is about the rich man and Lazarus.
呢個比喻咧係有一個預言性嘅一個比喻。
And this parable has a prophetic nature.
預言將來嘅事情會發生嘅事情。
To prophesy regarding something that will happen in the future.
咁呢個財主與拉撒路嘅比喻咧係有5大嘅教訓喺度。
And there are 5 main teachings behind this parable.
其中第一就係人有呢個死亡。
And the first one is that man will die.
第二就係人死後會復活。
And that after death there will be resurrection.
第三就死後復活後有呢個審判。
And after death and resurrection there will be judgment.
然之後咧有天堂同埋呢個地獄嘅事情。
And then there will be heaven and hell.
所以無論我哋係慕道嘅朋友，或者我哋在座嘅弟兄姊妹，
So whether we are truth-seeking friends or already members,
都係對我哋嚟講喺呢個信仰有一個好大嘅造就。
this parable brings great edification for us all.
所以我哋呢個比喻係非常之有意思嘅。
So there's a great meaning behind this
我哋
parable.
可以睇下呢個路加福音
Let's turn to Luke.
16章第19節開始。
Luke chapter 16 from verse 19.
呢個比喻財主拉撒路嘅比喻由16章由19至到31節嘅。
The parable of the rich man and Lazarus begins at chapter 16 verse 19.
呢個19節話，有一個財主穿着紫色袍和細麻衣服， 天天奢華宴樂。請讀。
Verse 19, There was a certain rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen, and fed sumptuously every day.
呢個比喻中講到呢個財主。
And then this parable talks about a rich man.
而呢個財主咧係冇記載佢係乜嘢名字。
And no name is recorded for this rich man.
反而呢個20節嗰度提到呢個討飯嘅乞衣，佢反而叫有個名字叫做呢個拉撒路。
But in verse 20, it does talk about a beggar named Lazarus.
財主冇呢個名字，表示而拉撒路有呢個名字。
The rich man had no name, but Lazarus had a name.
表示神喺佢嘅心中，呢個財主雖然間有錢，但係唔蒙神嘅紀念。
And this shows that even though this rich man had much money, he wasn't remembered by God.
而呢個拉撒路咧，卻係俾神嚟嘅紀念佢嘅名字。
But before God, Lazarus' name was recorded.
我哋點解咧？大家相信知道，因為呢個財主冇呢個愛心同埋呢個憐憫人嘅心。
And I believe we all know that this is because the rich man did not have compassion or love.
所以咧，神唔會紀念佢嘅名字。
So God did not remember his name.
我哋記得以前我哋嘅父親捕魚嘅時候。
I remember in the past when our parents were fishermen.
因為冇受呢個教育，冇呢個學識。
Because they didn't receive any education.
佢將我哋嘅子女時時按最容易嘅名稱。
They would give names, easy names for their children.
如果係第一個係男仔嘅，叫阿長；第二嘅呢個二弟、三弟、四弟、五弟。
They would name the children according to the order they were born.
由1至1、2、3、4、5啦。
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
女仔咧第一個梗係長嬌，二嬌、三嬌、四嬌、五嬌。
And likewise for the daughters, they will name them first daughter, second daughter, third daughter.
因為冇呢個學識嘅緣故，起碼都有個名字喺度。
Because they didn't have an education, but at least they had a name.
一叫三梯咁，佢又知道啦，企起身。
Or if they were able to say third son, and the third son will know.
呢個財主咧，佢連呢個名都冇，係非常之可惜。
But this rich man didn't have a name, and which was very.
因為呢個財主雖然間有錢，佢冇憐憫人嘅心，佢得唔到神嚟嘅紀念。
Because even though this rich man was wealthy, he did not love man, and so he wasn't remembered by God.
呢度記載呢個財主佢身穿呢個紫色嘅袍，同埋呢個細麻衣服。
Here records a rich man was clothed in purple and fine linen.
呢個紫色係皇家嘅一種顏色嚟。
And this purple was for royal people.
係皇帝贈送嘅贈品嚟嘅。
And it's a colour worn by kings.
喺聖經記載呢個以斯帖記第8章15節嗰度講到。
And in the Bible recorded in Esther chapter 8.
呢個末底改佢得到神嘅尊榮，佢曾經救過呢個皇帝呢個亞哈隨魯王。
Mordecai was honoured by the king because he had saved him.
咁佢因為佢喺佢個太監裏邊有兩個人想要佢殺死呢個亞哈隨魯王。
Because amongst the eunuchs, there were 2 eunuchs who wanted to kill King Ahasuerus.
後來被呢個末底改嚟佢識穿咗，嚟佢救到咗呢個王。
And it was Mordecai who found out about this plot and ended up saving the king.
後來呢個末底改得到皇帝嘅尊榮，俾佢紫色嘅袍同埋呢個細麻衣嚟佢穿上。
And in the end, Mordecai received this kingly honor. He wore a purple robe. 戴呢個皇冠，
穿着呢個紫色嘅袍，騎住呢個王嘅御馬，嚟佢喺呢個書珊城嘅嚟佢遊行。
And he wore a royal crest and a royal robe and was honored on horseback.
得到非常之大嘅尊榮。
And he received great honor.
細麻衣係代表呢個非常之貴重、高貴呢個衣料嚟嘅。
And fine linen was very expensive.
係尊貴一個標誌。
And it represented honor.
而呢個財主呢度有記載話，佢天天奢華宴樂。
Here records that the
表示喺19節後邊嘅，佢天天奢華宴樂，表示佢日日嚟佢享受佢呢個 佳肴美酒嘅生活。
And this rich man fed sumptuously every day, which meant he indulged.
睇過嚟20節。
In verse 20,
20節又有一個討飯的名叫拉撒路，渾身生瘡，被人放在財主門口。請讀。
Verse 20, but there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, full of sores, who was laid at his gate.
呢度記載拉撒路佢非常之可憐，佢唔單止窮冇得食。
Here records the pitiful state of Lazarus. Not only was he poor, but he had no food.
佢仲要全身嚟嘅生瘡。
He also was full of sores.
佢唔能夠走動，俾人哋抬到去財主嘅前邊。
He couldn't move, but was laid at the gate by others.
靠咗呢個乞食嚟去維持呢個生活。
And he can only sustain his life through begging.
非常之可憐。
And it's very pitiful.
拉撒路雖然間係乞衣，但係佢起碼都有個名字。
Even though Lazarus was a beggar, at least he had a name.
拉撒路咁有個名字嗌佢。
And people could call him by his name, Lazarus.
先生，你叫我施捨啲冷飯菜汁啊。
And he could respond to this.
起碼都有人嗌佢個名字。
At least others called upon his name.
拉撒路佢個名字希臘文係神所幫助嘅。
And in the Hebrew language, Lazarus is translated to God is my help.
但係呢個乞衣拉撒路，神何來會幫助過佢呢？
But how can we see God helping this beggar Lazarus?
又窮又有病。
He was poor and had illness.
如果有啲人如果嗌佢拉撒路，神所幫助嘅，聽到啦，好似被啲人諷刺一樣。
And even though he could hear his name, Lazarus, meaning God is my help, it sounded like they were mocking him.
你個幫助從邊度嚟啊？
Where is your help?
你唔係拜你嘅神，你嘅神冇幫助你咩？
Don't you worship your God? Has your God not helped
你嘅
you?
名叫做神所幫助嘅。
Your name is God is your help.
會常常遇到人嘅諷刺。
And he may receive mocking from
呢
others.
個負面嘅影響。
And this negative
但
influence.
係正面嘅影響咧，
But on the positive side,
拉撒路神幫助我。
Lazarus means God is my help.
我雖然間係貧窮，
Even though I am poor,
我唔出佢，我唔去偷嘢。
I will not steal.
我雖然冇得食，
Even though I have no food,
我唔去搶人哋嘅嘢嚟食。
I will not take food from others.
我默默嚟去忍受。
I will endure.
我嘅生活雖然間係痛苦，
Even though my life is tough,
佢忍耐到底，信服神對佢命運呢種嘅安排。
he endured to the end and trusted in God's arrangement.
睇過嚟第21節。
Let's look at verse 21.
21節。
21.
要21節要得財主着紙上掉下來的零食充飢，並且狗來舔他的瘡。請讀。
Verse 21, desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores.
呢度講到拉撒路佢嘅願望，要得財主從桌上掉下嚟或者係麵包碎或者係剩下嚟嘅飯嚟去充飢。
And Lazarus' desire was to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table.
通常嚟講，呢啲食物都係俾狗食嘅。
And more often than not, this food would be for the dogs.
有錢人佢食剩落嚟，嗰啲工人將佢哋掃然之後攞俾嗰啲狗嚟嘅食。
After the wealthy people ate, then the servants will wipe the food onto the ground for the dogs.
但係拉撒路咧，佢卻係攞呢啲嘅食物剩落嚟嘅食物嚟去充飢，非常之可憐。
And Lazarus actually took up the food which fell from the table, which is very pitiful.
財主天天奢華宴樂，而拉撒路兩餐都冇着落。
And the rich man on a daily basis fed sumptuously, yet Lazarus had nothing.
唔單止咁樣，佢仲要生到成身都係瘡。
And not only that, but his body was full of sores.
狗嚟啦，都冇力嚟佢將嗰啲狗嚟佢趕走。
And even when the dogs came, he didn't have the strength to shoo away the dogs.
你舔就舔到夠啦。
And they licked his sores.
所以狗嚟舔佢嘅瘡，形容人間只有狗嚟佢做佢嘅朋友。
And because only the dogs became his friends.
嚟佢同情佢。
To have pity on him.
睇22節。
Verse 22.
後來那討飯的死了，被天使帶去， 放在亞伯拉罕的懷裏。請讀。
So it was that the beggar died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's bosom.
再讀埋，財主也死了，並且埋葬了。
The rich man also died and was buried.
後來呢個土犯就死咗啦。
And in the end, the beggar died.
財主又死咗啦。
And the rich man also died.
一窮一富都離世啦。
The poor and the wealthy both died.
人生喺呢個世上，無論你有錢或者係貧窮。
And whether we are rich or poor in this life.
抑或你尊貴，抑或係非常之卑微，你都會走上死亡嘅道路。
Whether we are honourable or humble, we will all meet death.
冇一個人能夠免佢。
Nobody can escape death.
睇下希伯來書，人死後會點樣呢？
Let's turn to Hebrews to find out what happens after death.
希伯來書9章第27節。
Hebrews chapter 9.
希伯來書9章第27節。
Hebrews chapter 9 verse 27.
按着定命，人人都有一死，死後且有審判。請讀。
And as it is appointed for men to die once, but after this the judgment.
呢個按照神嘅定律人生出來至死亡。
And as appointed by God that man must die.
神已經係定準嘅。
And this has been appointed by
定
God.
準人嘅壽數，你活幾多歲？
God has appointed how many years man lives.
人死後而且有呢個審判。
And after death there is judgment.
好多人認為人死後好似呢個煙消雲散一樣。
And many people believe that after death, you
好似個煙雲霧而個消散。
you disappear like smoke.
或者好似呢個燈呢個熄滅，你熄咗個掣，你個人生乜嘢都冇啦，就係咁結束啦。
Or that death is like a light being switched off and nothing happens.
可能呢個有錢嘅財主，佢死後風光大葬，佢埋葬嘅時候非常之風光。
And perhaps when this rich man died, he had a very great burial.
而呢個拉撒路佢窮，當然冇咁好福氣，好可能掘一個坑，人哋好隨便將佢埋葬咗。
And it was perhaps that when Lazarus died, because he had no money, he was just simply buried somewhere.
財主嘅死埋葬，喺呢個世上佢係非常之熱鬧，非常之輝煌。
And the death of this rich man and his burial may have been quite a big occasion.
而拉撒路佢係非常之窮，但係卻兩人富有同埋呢個貧窮所去嘅地方係唔同。
And yet this Lazarus was very poor, and where he went was very different.
而呢個拉撒路咧，被天使帶去喺呢個亞伯拉罕嘅懷抱裏邊。
And Lazarus was carried up by angels to Abraham's bosom.
呢個亞伯拉罕嘅懷抱就係呢個樂園嘅意思。
And Abraham's bosom represents paradise.
佢講得係另外一個樂園，另一個名稱。
Another name for paradise.
係嗰啲敬畏神嘅人，佢哋離世之後，佢哋所要去嘅地方。
And is for those who honor God to go after they die.
睇路加福音第23章。
Turn to Luke chapter 23.
路加福音第23章。
Luke chapter 23.
43節。
Verse 43.
43節。耶穌對他說：我實在告訴你，今日你要同我在樂園了。
43 And Jesus said to him, Assuredly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise.
喺主耶穌佢被釘十字架為世人嘅罪而死喺十字架上。
And when Jesus was nailed on the cross to die for man's sins,
喺佢嘅被釘十字架時候，左右兩旁有兩個強盜一齊，因為犯罪而被釘喺呢個十字架，定呢個死刑。
And at that time there were also two criminals who were crucified with him.
其中有一個嚟嘅譏笑耶穌基督，你救你自己啊，我就信，同埋我哋啊。
And one of them blasphemed against Jesus, saying, If you are Christ, save yourself and us.
但係另一個咧，佢自己認為自己有罪，我哋 話我如果責備嗰個，我哋受刑啦係應該嘅。
But the other, recognizing his own sin, rebuked the other.
因為我哋所做嘅都係壞事，係被定罪係應該嘅。
Because what they did was wrong and they received a just reward.
但係呢個人但係耶穌佢冇做過乜嘢唔好嘅事啊。
But Jesus did nothing wrong.
佢就話耶穌啊，你得國降臨嘅時候，求你紀念我。
And then he said to Jesus, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom.
佢認罪又相信耶穌，要喺佢得國嘅時候要救佢。
He confessed his sins and believed in Jesus and asked to come into his kingdom.
後來耶穌就對佢話：我實在告訴你，今日你要同我在樂園了。
And Jesus said to him, Assuredly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise.
樂園就係信耶穌守神嘅道佢哋安息離世嘅時候要去到嘅地方。
And paradise is a place for those who have believed Jesus and observed his words to enter after they
亦
die.
即係亞伯拉罕嘅懷抱另一個稱呼。
Which is another name for Abraham's bosom.
到過嚟23節。
Verse 23.
路加福音第16章23節。
Luke chapter 16, verse 23.
23節，他在陰間受苦，舉目遠遠的望見亞伯拉罕，有望見拉撒路在他懷裏。聽讀。
Verse 23, And being in torments in Hades, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham afar off, and Lazarus in his bosom.
呢度講到拉撒路以前佢受苦，但係離世之後佢卻係呢個喺過咗呢個安息嘅生活，安息嘅懷裏。
So Lazarus was once in suffering, but after he died, he is now in comfort.
財主以前過咗奢華非常之開心嘅日子，但係死後卻係受苦。
And the rich man had a very luxurious life, but after death he was in torment.
因為呢度記載話，他在陰間嚟嘅受苦。
Because here it tells us that he was tormented in Hades.
陰間在聖經亦都有提到喺無底坑，一個犯罪嘅人所要去到嘅地方。
And Hades is a place for sinners to go after they die.
咁之後咧，到審判嘅時候咧，再落到呢個地獄嚟佢受到永恆嘅痛苦。
And after judgment, they will enter into hell and receive eternal punishment.
我哋睇啟示錄第20章15節。
Turn to Revelations chapter 20, verse 15.
啟示錄第20章15節。
Revelations chapter 20, verse 15.
先睇過嚟第11節同埋12節，之後15節。
Let's first look at verse 11 and 12 and then 15.
11節，我有看見一個白色的大寶座，椅坐在上面的，從他面前，天地都逃避，再無可見之處了。12節，我有看見死了的人，無論大小，都站在寶座前，案卷展開了，並且另有一卷展開，就是生命冊。死了的人都憑着這些案卷所記載的，照他們所行的受審判。15節，若有人名字沒有在生命冊上，他就被扔在火湖裏。請讀。
Verse 11, Then I saw a great white throne and him who sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. Verse 12, And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works by the things which were written in the books. Verse 15, And anyone not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire.
呢度就係老約翰喺主耶穌俾佢睇到嘅異象。
And here Elder John talks about a vision that he saw.
佢睇到一個白色嘅寶座。
He saw a great white throne.
呢個係一個審判嘅寶座。
And this is the throne of judgment.
主耶穌嚟嘅坐喺上邊。
And Jesus sat upon this throne.
死人無論大小都站喺呢個審判台前接受主耶穌嘅審判。
And the dead, whether great or small, were standing before God.
按照呢個案卷嚟個展開，你所做嘅事情好壞，全部都記錄喺呢個案卷裏邊。
And they were judged according to what was written in these open books.
神照着我哋所做嘅、所行嘅，都要嚟去審判我哋。
And God will judge us according to all that we do.
聖經話審判要從神嘅家嚟去開始。
The Bible tells us that judgment begins from the house of God.
如果我哋基督徒有主耶穌嘅教訓，我哋唔遵守，將來主耶穌會審判我哋。
If as Christians we do not observe the words that Jesus has commanded, one day we will be judged.
由我哋信耶穌嘅人開始。
So it begins with those who believe in Jesus.
所以我哋日常嘅生活中，我哋必須非常之謹慎。
So we must be very vigilant in our daily life.
喺呢個15節有記載，若有人嘅名字冇記喺呢個生命冊上，呢啲人都會受審判。
And in verse 15 it also talks about those not written in the book of life will receive judgment.
因為喺呢個聖經話，信而受洗必然得救，不信嘅必被定罪。
Because the Bible says, believe and be baptized and you will be saved. If you do not believe, you will not.
唔信耶穌嘅人，佢哋因為唔信神，你嘅救贖，佢哋嘅將來亦都係喺呢個得救上係無份。
Because those who do not believe in Jesus do not believe in his salvation and will not have part in this salvation.
我哋睇過嚟啟示錄21章第8節。
Let's also turn to Revelations chapter 21 verse 8.
21章第8節。
Chapter 21 verse 8.
第8節，唯有膽怯的、不信的、可憎的、殺人的、淫亂的、行邪術的、拜偶像的和一切說謊話的，他們的份就在燒着硫磺的火湖裏，這是第二次的死。
Verse 8. But the cowardly, unbelieving, abominable, murderers, sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death.
呢度可以記得清清楚楚，逢係受審判嘅佢哋嘅人都係記載喺呢一度。
Here records
所作嘅事情都記載喺呢度。
Here records very clearly the works of those who will receive judgment.
嗰啲唔相信神嘅或者行可憎殺人嘅淫亂嘅事嘅，行邪術嘅，拜偶像嘅，呢啲事情都會被定呢個死罪。
And the unbelieving, abominable, murderers, sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters will all have their judgment.
我哋睇過嚟20呢個3節，路加福音。
Turn to Luke chapter 16 verse 23.
呢度就係呢個財主喺呢個陰間嚟嘅受苦，遠遠嚟嘅望見亞伯拉罕，又見呢個拉撒路。
And this rich man, being in Hades, lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham afar off with Lazarus in his bosom.
咁再讀過嚟24節。
Verse 24.
就喊着說：我祖亞伯拉罕啊，可憐我吧，打發拉撒路來，用指頭尖蘸點水，涼涼我的舌頭，因為我在這火焰裏極其痛苦。聽到。
Verse 24, Then he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame.
為何呢個財主被下在陰間呢？
So why was it that this rich man was in Hades?
因為呢個財主亦都係敬拜神嘅人。
Because this rich man also worshipped God.
因為佢亦都係亞伯拉罕嘅後裔嚟。
And he was also a descendant of Abraham.
睇喺呢個25節嗰度講得好清楚。
And in verse 25 it clearly explains.
亞伯拉罕因為對話我兒啊，你該回想你生前享過福，拉撒路又受過苦。
But Abraham said, Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things.
如今他在這裏得安慰，你倒受痛苦。
But now he is comforted and you are tormented.
因為佢受苦被定罪嘅原因。
The reason why he was suffering and received judgment.
因為佢冇守神嘅律法，
Because he did not observe the laws of
冇
God.
行呢個愛呢種嘅精神。
He did not do the works of love.
因為律法嘅總綱就係愛神嚟愛人。
Because the law can be summarized in loving God and loving man.
睇馬太福音第22章。
In Matthew chapter 22.
馬太福音22章37至到40節。
Matthew chapter 22, verse 37 to 40.
37節。
Verse 37.
耶穌對他說：你要盡心、盡性、盡意愛主你的神。38節，這是誡命中的第一，且是最大的。39節，其次也相仿，就是要愛人如己。嗱，呢度主耶穌提到呢個誡命最大係乜嘢呢？
And Jesus here tells us what is the greatest of all the law.
就係盡心、盡性、盡意嚟嘅愛主我哋嘅神。
Is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind.
其次相仿就係類似嘅，相同一樣嘅，就愛人如己。
And in the same way, we must love our neighbor as ourselves.
呢兩條就係愛神愛人係律法嘅總綱。
And on these two commandments hang all the law and prophets.
而呢個財主啊，佢因為冇實行呢個愛。
And this rich man, because he did not show love.
喺聖經有咁樣嚟嘅提到。
The Bible tells us.
喺箴言第22章2節嗰度話。
In Proverbs chapter 22, verse 2.
富戶窮人，世上相遇，都為耶和華所做。
The rich man and the poor have this in common. The Lord is the maker of them all.
窮人同埋呢個有錢人喺埋一齊。
The poor and the rich are together.
其實係神所安排嘅。
It's actually under the arrangement of
就
God.
俾機會啲有錢人啊，嚟去好好地嚟去周濟呢啲貧窮嘅人。
To give an opportunity for the rich to show mercy to the poor.
因為呢啲係神嘅誡命，表示你愛人，即係愛神。
Because this is the commandment of God, to love man and to love God.
呢善事喺你面前，你必須嚟去做。
And these good works before us we should do.
但係呢個財主咧，佢冇做到。
But this rich man did not do this.
佢日日睇到呢個人抬拉撒路嚟，佢連俾啲冷飯菜汁佢都冇俾佢。
Every day he would see people carry Lazarus to him, but he did not give him any food.
只係希望作子掉落嚟啲零碎，讓佢哋去充飢。
And he can only have the food that fell off his table.
佢失去咗呢個機會，呢個行善呢個機會。
He missed the opportunity to show love.
喺呢個再讀過嚟24節。
Verse 24.
24節。
Verse 24.
佢喊咗說：話我祖亞伯拉罕啊，可憐我吧，打發拉撒路來，用指頭沾蘸點水，涼涼我嘅舌頭。
Then he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue.
呢度佢喺度受苦嘅時候，佢想叫佢嘅祖亞伯拉罕打發拉撒路，你嘅攞少少水嚟嘅掂下佢嘅舌頭，涼一涼。
And here, while he was suffering, he asked his father Abraham that Lazarus may dip the finger and give him some water.
呢個係最低嘅要求，但係佢得唔到。
And this is a minimum request, yet he could not receive.
同埋呢個事情當然係唔能夠做到。
And of course, this could not happen.
因為財主啊，佢所受嘅係公平嘅報應。
Because what the rich man received was a just judgment.
喺佢呢個陰間嚟嘅受苦係罪有應得嘅。
And he received his just punishment in Hades.
所以喺25節嗰度，亞伯拉罕話：我兒啊，你該回想你生前享過福，拉撒路有受過苦，而今他喺這裏得到安慰，你倒受痛苦。
And that's why in verse 25 it says, But Abraham said, Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things.
亞伯拉罕稱呢個財主我兒可能係親屬或者指佢佢喺呢個死後所遭遇係罪有應得嘅。
And Abraham addressed him as his son. Maybe perhaps they were related, or perhaps he was saying that what he received was just.
佢只知道享福，卻冇嚟去做呢個善事，周濟憐憫貧窮嘅人。
That he enjoyed his wealth, but he did not use his wealth to help others.
喺26節話，不但這樣，並且在你我之間有深淵限定，以致人要從這邊過到你們那邊是不能的，要從那邊過到我們這邊也是不能的。
In verse 26, And besides all this, between us and you there is a great gulf fixed, so that those who want to pass from here to you cannot, nor can those from there pass to us.
呢度就天堂地獄之間一個永恆嘅界線。
And there is this infinite border between heaven and hell.
就呢個深淵。
Which is a fixed gulf.
你人死後佢嘅命運已經定咗。
After death, the man's fate has already been decided.
你喺呢個地獄嘅地方唔能夠去到天堂嘅地方，天堂當然唔會落去呢個地獄嘅地方。
And those in hell cannot cross over to heaven, and those in heaven will not cross over to hell.
所以基督徒喺呢個生前我哋必須嚟遵守主耶穌基督嘅教訓。
So as Christians, while we are still living, we must observe the commandments of God.
未信主嘅，我哋知道人死後唔係話乜嘢都冇嘅。
And those of us yet to believe in God, we must believe that after death, it's not that we just disappear.
基督人有呢個更新同埋呢個來生。
There is a life on earth and a life after death.
所以我哋喺生前嘅時候，把握呢個機會嚟去信耶穌。
So while we are still living on earth, we must take this opportunity to believe in Christ.
讀過嚟27節。
Verse 27.
財主說：我主啊，既是這樣，求你打發拉撒路到我父家去。呢度講到財主叫拉撒路嚟去佢個父家嗰度去。
Here the rich man asked Lazarus to go to his father's house.
讀過嚟28節。
Verse 28.
因為我還有5個弟兄，他可以對他們作見證，免得他們來到這個痛苦的地方。佢就因為佢仲有5個弟兄，好可能佢哋所做嘅都係同佢差唔多。
Because he still had 5 brothers, and maybe what they did was similar to what he did.
所以佢要求亞伯拉罕差遣拉撒路你去從死裏復活，去到佢嗰邊兄弟嗰度俾佢哋知道，唔好好似佢嘅呢個財主一樣。
So he asked Abraham to send Lazarus to warn them, so that they would not end up like him.
免得冇遵守神嘅教訓，去到將來同佢一樣嚟去受苦。
Lest they also not observe the commandments of God and end up where he is.
呢個財主嘅要求係第二個要求。
And this was the second request from the rich man.
咁亞伯拉罕點回答呢？29節。
And in verse 29.
亞伯拉罕說：他們有摩西和先知的話可以聽從。呢度提到話佢哋有呢個摩西嘅律法書啊，個常常都喺呢個會堂嚟去誦讀啊，嚟去學習啊。
And Abraham said to him that they have Moses and the prophets, and they hear this all the time.
如果佢哋平時聽到唔去接受嘅話，就算拉撒路死過翻生去佢嗰度，佢哋一樣唔會聽從。
And if they listen to the laws and prophet but do not accept, then neither will they be persuaded though one rise from the dead.
咁我哋弟兄姊妹亦都一樣。
And today it's the same for us.
我哋信耶穌之後。
After we believe in Jesus,
我哋不斷嚟去追求
we need to continually pursue,
努力聚會
to observe service
侍
diligently,
奉多禱告讀經
to serve and to read and pray,
熱心嚟去敬拜神
to fervently serve the Lord.
呢啲係最基本做到嘅事情。
And these are our basic requirements.
37節呢度話
Verse 30.
他說：我主亞伯拉罕啊，不是的。若有一個從死裏復活的到他們那裏去，他們必要悔改。31節，亞伯拉罕說：若不聽從摩西和先知的話，就是一個人從死裏復活，他們也是不聽勸的。嗱，呢度就係呢個財主嘅要求。
And this is the rich man's request.
要求拉撒路亞伯拉罕叫讓拉撒路復活，去到佢哥哥們嗰度、兄弟們嗰度。
That Lazarus can resurrect and go to his brothers.
或者佢哋會聽從。
That perhaps they will listen.
當然呢個係冇可能嘅事。
And of course this is not possible.
如果佢平時都唔聽摩西嘅教訓，就算有死人從死裏復活，佢哋一樣唔會悔改。
If in their daily life they do not listen to Moses and the prophets, then even if one rises from the dead, they will not believe.
從呢個比喻，我哋學習到咩呢？
So what can we learn from this parable?
我哋信徒唔係單單聽到，仲要行動。
As believers, we can't just listen to the words, but we have to do the works.
冇到嘅朋友嘅，把握機會嚟信主。
And for truth seekers, we must take the opportunity to believe in God.
因為人有根真同埋呢個來生。
Because there is life on earth and life after death.
將來仲要接受神嘅審判。
And we will receive the judgment of God.
祝福大家。
May God bless you all.
我哋唱詩。
Sing hymn
179首。
178.